What's up, ego hackers? Welcome to CS Joseph Podcast. I'm your host, CS Joseph. In today's topic, we're going to be discussing men, unconscious developed men specifically, and how they're made, and why it's important to make them. Unconscious developed men are a different breed. They are, quite honestly, they're hurt souls. They really are. But that's because of how they've been raised. Unconscious developed men, honestly, are the men who face life, and they face life by themselves. And it's very difficult as a result. I mean, their primary function is to be creators of family, whereas subconscious developed men are maintainers of family. This is oftentimes why you see a subconscious developed man like Matt Damon marrying a single mom bartender and then maintaining family, and all these other men in his life congratulate him for doing that, even though that situation may not have been morally or ethically okay, especially biblically, but, who knows? Because if that woman initiated divorce, she's basically an adulterer at that point. So who knows the circumstances of what happened? I don't know. But what I am saying, though, is that it's sus. It's sus. But UD men, however, they are raised in isolation. Raised in isolation. And UD men basically figure out in their life they have to earn everything they get. And they can't depend on anyone, not their family, not society, no one. They are just by themselves going through life. They're like the rebel without a cause, except the cause is actually survival. The men who are able to just make anything work and get through anything, think their way through situations, able to deal with conflict, able to get out of a fight and survive, able to enter into a battlefield and leave that battlefield. These are the unconscious developed men. This is basically the warrior caste of the human race, unconscious developed men, and they are, quite frankly, raised in isolation. They are taught that very quickly, and they learn very quickly that they are alone. And if they, and they have to basically earn attention to get anywhere in life. It's all about earning attention. And they don't get attention unless they do something to prove themselves. UD men consistently have the mindset that they have to be constantly proving themselves all the time. And then oftentimes it becomes so automatic that they learn that they have to prove themselves to themselves. And that's a really big deal in of its own right. And the UD men, they're very idealistic. They're very sharp with their decision making, but they're idealistic with it. Although, to be fair, oftentimes UD men end up having the reputation of being creepy or coming off creepy, having a bad vibe, a reputation of being dangerous. And it's because they are. They are dangerous. Of course, the warrior caste, the psychological warrior caste of the human race would be dangerous. That makes a lot of sense. Of course they would be. And the problem is that there's so few of them anymore. There's so few. There's so many workers, subconscious developed men, and so few soldiers, the unconscious developed men, because it has been necessary to produce the soldiers. We just need more workers in this economy-based global society, instead of a global society that used to run on war. And as a result of that, there's no real need for the queen at the center of the nest to produce soldiers. She's got to produce workers instead. So the worker ants, those are the subconscious developed men. The soldier ants are the unconscious developed men. But how to create an unconscious developed man? Well, those are created in isolation. And it's sad everything they go through. But, guess what? While they have it really bad in childhood, they have it really good in adulthood. Just like what the Bible says, He who tries to save his life or preserve his life will lose it. Those are the worker ants. He who is willing to lose his life and put his life on the line, that man will gain it. Those are the unconscious developed men. It's just kind of how it works. This is why I have a theory. I have a theory that when faced with certain death, and you're to have all of the men in the world go through a rite of passage to prove themselves and prove their manhood, and in every rite of passage, they have to, for the most part, either face death or have a risk of death or extreme harm to oneself. And whether or not they can get through, endure, survive, and the proving of that endurance, the proving of that stamina, the proving of that surviving that ordeal is what gains the man societal respect as a man instead of him being a boy. That rite of passage is necessary. I just don't think the worker ants, the subconscious developed man, can actually pass. I don't think they can actually pass that. I don't think they can pass the rite of passage. I really don't think so. And that's a big problem. I don't think they can pass. Whereas the UD men are the ones who pass. They pass consistently. They're more invested in decision making than they are how things look and perceiving things and being able to sense danger, because they are danger and they bring danger with them everywhere they go. But that danger, that strength, is not used in a selfish manner. Oftentimes, as unconscious developed men are actually painted out to be too dangerous to trust with it, because if you give a loaded gun to a subconscious developed man, that's a huge problem. It's like giving a loaded gun to a boy, but versus a loaded gun to an unconscious developed man, he's going to be respectful of the gun. He's going to take care of the gun. He's going to learn how to use the gun. He's going to be safe around the gun, and he can be trusted with it. So oftentimes, the men that appear to be the most dangerous are actually the men that you're the safest around, because they're going to protect you. Do you honestly think a subconscious developed man is going to protect you? Do you think the worker ants are going to protect you? It's the soldier ants that are going to protect you. And that's the thing. What's also fascinating about the soldier ants is that the women are the most attracted to the soldier ants instead of the worker ants. They're the most attracted to them. And this is why, since there's so few unconscious developed men out there, they're the ones banging all the girls. And they end up having access to multiple women. Versus the worker ants, they got nothing. And they're not even noticed. But the soldier ants stand out because there's so few of us. And that's the grim reality of the world. And all because we're raised in isolation. Because we have to earn every bit of attention that we get. Everything is earned all the time. At least that's how we perceive it. Truth be told, there's nothing really earned in life, except maybe money. But even then, that's an illusion. The thing is that someone has to choose to give to you, regardless of your behavior at the end of the day. So the whole idea or philosophy of something being earned is actually a false dichotomy. It's not actually real. So keep that in mind. But yeah, men raised in isolation. They don't have any value, and they were treated in such a way where they didn't have any value unless they did something, unless they had something to show for it. At the end of the day, my father did this with me, especially when it came to grades. He's part of the Mind Temple, so he's a Mind Temple person, and Mind Temple people very much care about grades and academics. And he threatened me as a child if I did not bring in good grades. And I also knew that if I didn't bring in good grades, I was nothing but a disappointment to him. At least that's how I felt consistently. May not be true. I may not actually know what's going on through my father's head. All I know is his actions. That's all I know. But I do remember feeling completely and utterly alone as a child. Not just socially, but also within my own family. Feeling alone. Whether I was actually alone or not is a different story, but I would often feel alone. And that's feelings of loneliness, which ends up creating separation anxiety, by the way. These feelings of loneliness and that isolation, basically where at that point it places a challenge on my life, where if I'm going to get anything out of life, including my own personal safety or my own personal future, I have to fight for it. I have to fight for everything I get. For example, there's another family at church, and they always had the newest gaming consoles. I really enjoyed a regular Nintendo with my cousins growing up. But then I got to go over to a household, and I got to enjoy my friend playing Chrono Trigger on the Super Nintendo. And I was absolutely fascinated by it, and I love Chrono Trigger, the game. It's so good. Super Nintendo. I remember going up to my dad and asking him to buy that for me, and he refused. He's like, nope, can't afford it. That's what he said. And I was kind of smart enough as a child to realize that he could actually afford it, and he was just bullshitting me. But the thing is, too, is that's because, my opinion about how money should be spent on the family is not necessarily conducive to how my father sees how money should be spent on the family. Because, we got to make sure we're giving money to the church, naturally. But he told me, like, look, if you want that Nintendo, you're just going to have to earn it. And he told me that. But he also gave me no teaching and no skill in terms of how to actually pull that off. I kind of had to learn that on my own. It got to a point where I had to become a little entrepreneurial as a child. I do 3, 4-way, 5-way trades, using the Ferengi road of trade, basically, to get the thing that I wanted. It's demonstrated in Deep Space Nine, by the way. And if you like Deep Space Nine, you're based. If you don't, what are you doing? Actually bother to watch it. It's good. It's the best Star Trek they ever made. But the point is that, I ended up going to garage sales, basically, and buying things with quarters and some coins that I'd find or pick up. And then I would either use those things to trade up with, or I'd sell them basically for more. Until finally, at a garage sale, there was a Super Nintendo, and I was able to buy my own. Finally. And I absolutely loved it. I even got the Super Game Boy and was able to play Pokemon Blue on it all the time as a child. I absolutely loved it, and I worked my butt off to be able to get things like that. And sometimes my parents were supportive, sometimes they weren't, but I had to learn all of that in isolation. I had to learn all that. And that's the thing, I'm an autodidact, right? Everything is self-taught. And that's the thing about unconscious developed men. These are the men who don't rely on society. They don't rely on institutions. They don't rely on education. They don't rely on credentials. These are the men who are the autodidacts. They're the men who are self-taught. And because they're self-taught, they're also the men who end up having the brightest future. And because they have the brightest future, they are the most attractive to women, basically. And as a result of that, they can end up having multiple, sexual relationships simultaneously. I mean, I have multiple wives. I mean, there you go. I'm a polygynist, right? So, and that's achievable. Achievable by a man who's raised in isolation, who is not reliant on others, but has to be self-reliable, because he knows at the end of the day, no one is coming to save him. No one's coming to save him. And then, sometimes, though, you even get yourself into deep shit when you're an UD man, and no one's coming to save you, and you're basically on your knees crying out to God, asking for God to save you, because there's nothing else, and nothing's going to happen. I'm very thankful that, in my case, I have done that, and God has answered and saved my ass on multiple occasions. I'm very thankful for that. A lot of people just don't even realize that that's just what you have to do, because, even as a UD man in your adulthood, you're still isolated. You still are. And yeah, you may create a family. Yeah, you may have wives and children and all these things. But guess what? You are still in a situation where you're isolated. Do you think your fellow man's going to be there for you? Do you think the worker ants are going to be there for you? So I oftentimes, worker ants rely on their strengths and numbers to be able to push the needle in their lives. And that's why they also oftentimes have to mob the soldiers, because the soldiers are strong. The soldier ants are strong. Those UD men, they're very strong. But what would happen when the soldier ants band together and the UD man work together and become one cohesive unit. Well, guess what? They're indomitable. They cannot be defeated at all. It does not matter how many worker ants there are. The soldier ants coordinated together will completely and utterly dominate. And they will take over. And there's nothing anyone can do to stop them. There's literally nothing anyone can do. And oftentimes, people are completely unaware of how and why that even is. So, be aware of these dynamics. But the path of the UD man is a hard one. Hard childhood. Childhood where they have to perceive everything is earned. The autodidact, the self-learner, the self-taught. The realization that no one is going to save you. The realization that you are all you really have. You and God, and that's it, and there's nothing else. You and God. It's just you and God. Family's not going to be there for you. Friends are not going to be there for you. Wives are not going to be there for you. Children are not going to be there for you. It's just you. That's the lone wolf path of the UD men. That's why it's important for unconscious developed men to actually get to know one another and band together and be loyal to one another so that they can pull themselves together and have those allies. And some of them do. But when you have subconscious developed men in your midst, those worker ants oftentimes will betray you. And they've betrayed me many times. And I've watched them betray some of my closest unconscious developed male friends as well. Like Armanzi Kahuna right now on Discord. He recently had a bunch of subconscious developed so-called male friends, these worker ants. All of them betrayed him. All of them abandoned him. And he had to learn that harsh lesson on his own. And it was really sad. But that's the reality. That's the cruel reality of the world. The sad reality of it. Isolation is a bitch. But there's this YouTube video by Matthias M. called The Mind. And it's basically Charles Bukowski giving a poem. Your life is your life. Don't let it be clubbed into dank submission. Be on the watch, because there will be chances. And he's talking about how, isolation is a gift. To men, isolation is absolutely a gift. However, to women, isolation is a curse. Keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. Obviously, when you have boys and you're raising them, you want to be there for them, naturally. But you kind of want to let them figure it out on their own. Don't do things for them. Let them figure it out on their own. Isolation is healthy for them. Isolation will cause them to be self-reliant instead of reliant on the system and reliant on society. And they themselves will have history and they will have a future. So, anyway, folks, thanks for watching and listening, and I'll see you guys on the next episode.